Hi, my name is Angel Lopez, and I'd like to take this time to inform the community to stand together, protect our elders, and stop uh, hate crimes and attacks against the Asian American community. Since the start of the pandemic, there has been an increase in xenophobia against Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders. There is a surge in attacks in the Bay Area, as of recently, on elderly Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders. Since the beginning of the pandemic last year in March, social media has been a great outlet of firsthand accounts, videos, and leading up to finding perpetrators, people who have caused or who have taken a part of those hate crimes. More recently, we've seen the 84-year-old uh, Thai American Vicha Ratapati, who was just going for a walk in his own neighborhood in San Francisco when he was just violently shoved to the ground, and suffered injuries that later led on to his passing. So we need to find ways to protect the elderly and Asian American community, Pacific Islander community, and their families. I'd like to inform people of the violent hate crimes against Asian American and Pacific Islander communities and introduce three solutions. One of these solutions to this epidemic of hate is to be a fountain of knowledge and inform others. It starts with you, with me, to stop racism, inform others, to not listen to racist rhetoric. As of recently, on January 26, 2021, President Biden signed a memorandum pledging to fight anti-Asian xenophobia. So the federal government is recognizing that it has further contributed to hate against Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders since the start of the pandemic, largely due to the fact of our last president, Trump. Manju Kulkarni, the executive director of the Asian Pacific Policy and Planning Council, says, oftentimes perpetrators have used the exact language of the prior president's words, like Wuhan virus, Kung flu, China virus, China plague, and sometimes they have even weaponized the former president himself, saying Trump is going to get you. You're going to go back to your country. What President Trump did was foment hate against Asian communities and really put people in harm's way and their families. So it's up to us to stop it right there. When you hear those remarks, say something, stand up, and also be informative of, more than 2 million Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders have been on the front lines since the beginning of the pandemic in healthcare, first responders, and other positions. Uh, Manju Kulkarni has also documented almost 3,000 documented anti-Asian hate incidents since the start of the pandemic in March of 2020 across 47 states, 7 to 8% of that being elderly. In the recent weeks, what I've seen personally is a lot more targeted attacks on the elderly Asian Americans community. So, stopping the racist remarks influenced by past rhetoric as you witness it and voicing out how real this crisis is can have a definite impact. And I know it's not easy to speak up, especially when you're all alone or you don't feel safe. Try to do so in somewhere where you feel comfortable enough to say something, but just do not allow it to happen as long as you're able to. Um, so the next solution would be to be an active bystander, right? So don't be a bystander. Contribute to finding the perpetrators. Take a video. That could really assist to catching those criminals. If able to detain an attacker, to strengthen numbers, call 911. Take note of the description of the appearance of the car, clothing, tattoos, certain identifiers that can lead to the arrest of the criminal. Um, be an active bystander. Um, when victims are being attacked, they're often just watched. Uh, According to Psychology Today, the intervention of bystanders is the only often reason why bullying and crime cease. Often when one person takes action, if only a shout, hey, what's going on? Or the police are coming, others may be emboldened to take action as well. So being an active bystander can be scary. Essentially, you're putting yourself in danger, but it can lead to saving a life. If you're able to do so, please at least try to uh, you know be confident and say those phrases that can cause other people to come at and help you out. Uh, because the bystander effect is real, and we need to break that in order to be able to break that crime. Um, Catching the perpetrators and taking action against these violent crimes will ultimately deter the crimes from happening. So if we're catching the people who are doing the crimes, then there's repercussions, and we can stop it from further developing. Um, Ultimately, the best solution that I think is the best is is a preventative method, right? So stronger community watch, community strolling, gathering in groups to offer protection to businesses. Like in Oakland, there's a community strolling group. Um, so we can offer to walk employees to their cars and homes. Uh, Businesses are already suffering during the pandemic, choosing to close business early because they're fearful for their employees and themselves. So having those community strolls can be really helpful to the community. Um, so patrolling hotspots of crime and frequent elder destinations such as banks during the festive Chinese New Year's week. I know it's hard to find time to volunteer frequently, but just spreading this information around, doing it once, if we all come together, then we can really have a huge impact on the community. Um, if you're not able to do so by volunteering, you can become involved with the elderly and family members, Asian American members. When you go do the grocery shopping, go do theirs too. Be vigilant. If you know there's a hotspot for crime that's going on, inform them of that. If I know my neighbor's going to go on a walk, offer to go on a walk with him. Right now during Chinese New Year's, you can pass out red envelopes for the elderly instead of have them, go to the bank and pull out money to get fresh, bills. Uh, Help them out and distribute that for them. So standing together and reaching out to our community, we can further safeguard the elders and bring social awareness to these racist crimes. Do not stand idle and speak up against racist slurs. We must teach that there is no difference between being human. It's time to come together and fight the epidemic of hate now. We must take action now and continue to fight xenophobia. It pains me deeply to see the ones who are at most risk from the pandemic, like our Asian American elders uh, and elders of all colors, to be target of epidemic of hate. The Asian American and Pacific Islander community and their families need us more than ever to stand with them. Will you stand with us?